and smile, 'cause it's been a while. It's been like a whole day since I stopped so you could hold me. But this child awaits, strong in the faith. Lord, you are the refuge that I can't wait to get to, 'cause I can't let a day go, can't let a day go by without thanking you for the joy that you bring to my life. And ooh, there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong. I'm about to get my worship on, take me away. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When trouble seems to rain on my dreams, it's not a big deal. Let it wash all the bugs off my windshield, 'cause you're showing me that in you I'm free, and you're still the refuge that I've just got to get to. So I won't let a day go, won't let a day go by. So put the drop top down, turn it up, I'm ready to fly. And ooh, there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong. I'm about to get my worship on, take me away. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got no need to worry, I've got no room for doubt. No matter what's coming at me, you'll always be the beautiful I sing about. There ain't no limitations to your amazing grace, your amazing grace. And there's something about the way your love shines on my face. Oh no, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong. I'm about to get my worship on, I'm gonna sing a brand new song. Yeah, I'm about to get my worship on, take me away on this beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Such a beautiful day.
Every point of view has another angle, and every angle has its merit, but it all comes down to faith. That's the way I see it. You can say that love is not divided. You can say that life is not eternal. All we have is now, but I don't believe it. There's a God-shaped hole in all of us, and a restless soul is
This one story in particular has had a profound impact on me. It's about a woman who did the impossible, and it made me ask myself if I could do the same. Renee had 4 kids. 2 of her daughters were twins. Megan was coming home from the beach one night with her best friend when their car was struck by a drunk driver named Eric, a 24-year-old kid. Megan lost her life. Eric killed both girls that were in the car. Renee lost her daughter in an instant.
Megan is a very joyful child and had a heart of gold, beautiful, loved people, loved her family, just a joy of my life. And when she was 20 years old, on May 11th, 2002, my sister-in-law came to the door to tell me that Megan had been in a car accident and she didn't make it. You know, my heart was so broken, and I looked at her and said, "No, you're kidding," and you know, still looking for her to tell me that this is not really true, that Megan wasn't coming back home.
Next thing she knows, she finds herself in a courtroom watching this young man, this 24-year-old man, get sentenced to 22 years in prison. After Renee lost her daughter, she said she found herself in the darkest place she'd ever been. This guy Eric was behind bars, but she said she felt like the prisoner. Why? Because she had all this bitterness and hatred built up towards that young man. And so she reached out and did the impossible. She reached out to Eric in prison and said, "I forgive you." The ripple effects of that act of forgiveness are still being felt today. That young man's life was absolutely changed because this woman forgave him. He said, "I can't even forgive myself," and she forgave me. One by one, all of Renee's family members followed her lead, and they reached out and expressed forgiveness to Eric. So much so that now they describe Eric as part of their family, like a son to Renee. The story doesn't stop there though. Renee went to the courts along with her family, and she was able to have Eric's sentence cut in half from 22 years to 11 years.
He told me that day, the day of the hearing, that it didn't matter at this point. He said, you know, if the judge does not grant this for me, I want you to know that I am so grateful that you are willing to do this. And he said, and I will be okay. He said, I'll be fine. But he was blown away by the fact that we were willing to go before the judge and you know, plead for him to not have to be there for 22 years.
It's the hardest thing to give away, the last thing on your mind today, and it always goes to those who don't deserve. It's the opposite of how you feel when the pain they cause is just too real. Takes everything you have to say the word forgiveness.
I was more than angry at Eric. I had so much rage inside of me, and yet the moment that I was able to look Eric in his eyes and tell him that I forgive him, you know, that was a moment that healing began for both of us.
It's always anger's own worst enemy. And even when the jury and the judge say you got a right to hold a grudge, it's the whisper in your ear saying set it free. Forgiveness.
A judge and a jury telling you that it's okay to hold a grudge, you know, that's what the world says. It's okay for you to feel that way, which it is. But yet, those feelings, they're inside of you eating away at you, and you don't want to live your life that way.
Forgiveness. Show me how to love the unlovable. Show me how to reach the unreachable. Help me now to do the impossible. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Oh, help me now to do the impossible.
There are people who are not going to ever have someone say to them, I'm sorry for what I did, or I take responsibility for what I did, and you still have to forgive if you want to heal.
It can even set a prisoner free. There is no end to what its power can do. So let it go and be amazed by what you see through eyes of grace. The prisoner that it really frees is you. Forgiveness.
You're not letting go of what happened. You know, it is wrong. It should never have happened. It is not okay. It doesn't mean that you're canceling any of that out. But once you are able to say those words and truly mean it, you know, then you do find that you're setting a prisoner free, and the prisoner truly is you.
Show me how to love the unlovable. Show me how to reach the unreachable. Help me now to do the impossible. Yeah. Forgiveness, I wanna finally set it free. Show me how to see what your mercy sees, and help me now to give what you gave to me. Forgiveness, forgiveness, oh, forgiveness, oh, forgiveness, forgiveness.
I was immediately inspired by Renee's story when I read it, but it took me a while to write her song. I kept her story in my guitar case for about 2 years, and I realized the reason why it was so difficult to write this song, Forgiveness, is because it's kind of hard to live that out. That's why the words of the chorus are sung in the form of a prayer. God, show me how. Help me to do the impossible. This story of forgiveness really makes me think that there's some pretty life-defining questions that all revolve around that one word, forgiveness. Questions like, is there somebody that I need to forgive, that I've been holding on to a grudge and it's weighing me down? Every step's getting heavier and I just need to set it free. Another question is there someone that I need to go and ask for forgiveness from? To say, I'm humbling myself, I'm sorry, no excuses, can we start over? Another forgiveness question, one that Eric has had to deal with in prison, is, can I ever forgive myself? What if loving the unlovable means having to learn how to love that person you see when you look in the mirror? Sometimes that's not an easy task, which really leads to the most significant forgiveness question of all, and it's this. Have I ever let it really sink in? The message of God's forgiveness, what He's done for me through His Son Jesus dying on a cross for my sins. Renee stood before that judge along with all of her family members, taking turns speaking on behalf of a guilty criminal and seeking mercy for him. I'm reminded that somebody has done that for me, somebody has done that for you, and His name is Jesus. For God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Why did He do that? So that our stories could discover the healing, the victory, the redemption, the power, the freedom of one word: forgiveness.
So I got a story from a woman named Andrea, originally from Colorado, now a resident of Uganda. How she got there is a pretty crazy miracle. She went there as a student for class credit to learn how to do microfinancing, and while she was there, she found an orphanage where the children were being abused and neglected really badly.
Over the course of those 2 months, witnessing the day-to-day life of the kids, the abuse they faced, I fell in love with them. You know, they became so much more than just, you know, needy kids that you would see on commercials, or, you know, they became people, and they're kids, and they have personalities and smiles and beautiful faces. I knew that God had a bigger plan for them, and that they shouldn't be trapped in the situation of neglect and abuse.
And her heart broke, and she called her dad and said, I'm not coming home. Her dad said, you get on a plane right now. She said, no, if I don't do something, who will? So she stuck around, pestered the Ugandan government long enough until they shut down that orphanage, and then they handed 40 children to her care. Andrea didn't know what she was doing, but she did something. And now there's an orphanage in Iganga, Uganda called Musana. that houses over 120 children. And Andrea is the head of this orphanage.
On September 16th, 2008, we actually got to move the first 40 kids from that other orphanage. And I remember bringing the kids to Musana, and they lined up, and we said go, and they all ran to their name tags and jumped in their beds and like had the biggest smiles on their faces. Not one of them had ever slept in a bed before. And that night, I remember going around and giving every single one of them like a kiss on the forehead and a hug and saying, like, you're home now, you're safe. I love you, God loves you. And it was the best, by far the best moment of my life, and the moment where I knew that God had such big plans for these kids, and that these kids were gonna be the future leaders of Uganda and the future leaders of this world.
I woke up this morning, saw a world full of trouble. Now I thought, how do we ever get so far down, and how's it ever gonna turn around? So I turned my eyes to heaven. I thought, God, why don't you do something?
Everybody is capable of making a difference, no matter where you are in your life, no matter what your job is, no matter what situation you're in. Every single person is capable of doing something and making the world a better place.
So I shook my fist at heaven. I said, God, why don't you do something? And he said, I did. I created you. Uh-oh. Come on, say it. If not us, then who? If not me and you right now. Well, it's time for us to do something. Yes, it is. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? Well, it's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. Somebody say yeah. Well, I'm so tired of talking about how we are God's hands and feet, when it's easier to say than to be. We live like angels of apathy who tell ourselves it's all right, somebody else will do something.
In Uganda, they say that there's 2.5 million orphans. And an orphan is defined by a child that's lost their father. So many of the kids at Musana actually do have mothers, but they don't have the resources, the skills to be able to take care of them. And so we want to start a new project to empower mothers to take care of their children.
Not us, then who? If not me and you right now. Well, it's time for us to do something. Well, if not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? Well, it's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. We are the salt of the earth. We are a city on a hill.
So many people always say, like, oh, I feel so bad for those children. I feel so bad for these people in Uganda or in Africa. And honestly, like, I walk around the community of Uganda and I admire the people so much. The joy, the spirit, the community, the love between them. And that's what it's all about.
Now if not us, then who? If not me and you right now. Well, it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? Well, it's not enough to do nothing. Oh, it's time for us to do something. Well, it's time for us to do something. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion me, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. We're going to sing the original last verse of this hymn. It's a great hymn. The words, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright, shining as the sun. Those were actually added 100 years later to the hymn. I was doing some reading about this hymn, and John Newton, who wrote the hymn, was just blown away by the story of this song. Many of you know it. John Newton was captain of a slave ship, was a slave master. And God saved him from that gross life, and he spent the rest of his days preaching the good news. And towards the end of his life, he wrote this poem. He called it Amazing Grace. It's probably the greatest song ever given to the church, probably. And I was reading these words, and I'd never read the last verse. I'd never seen it. And somewhere along the way, as it was getting passed down to generations, these words somewhere got lost. And it's as if he wrote them after hearing Louis talk tonight. It's just incredible. There's just perfect timing tonight to sing these. So let's sing this together, this last verse, and then we just sing My Chains Are Gone, and just let your heart express that to God, and the good news, the gospel that Jesus has set us free tonight. We'll sing this together. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise